Welcome, everybody. It's about 1:11. So in order to value your time, we will go ahead and get started. It is myself and Des Arnold presenting today, and we are going back and forth between our time presenting. So at first, there might be a couple little hiccups, but we will get there. So welcome aboard, everybody. We're still letting a few people in from the waiting room. This session is adult self-care. So if you're not in the right spot, you might want to head out and find the room to be in. We also want to mention that your agenda for the day, the one with all the colors on it, has this slide deck and the materials folder hooked right into it. If you would like to click on that, you can see this slide deck and any other clickable links inside of it, but we will also put things right in the chat for you today if you need to click a link. Thanks for saying hello to us. You guys are such a friendly group. We really appreciate it. So again, as I said, it's myself and Des Arnold today. And if Des can unmute and say hello, we'll let her do that. She's working the waiting room too.
Hello, everybody. My name is Des. I am one of the staff developers in TAC here at the IU. My specialization is literacy. However, I also am a life coach out on the side, and self-care is one of those topics that I am very passionate about.
Thanks, Des. And here's my information. I am a training consultant staff in the area of behavior. The main things that I do is I train teams in positive behavior interventions and support across our footprint. We have something like 60 active positive behavior intervention support teams at the schools. So you may have seen me doing some things with that. Also train safety care and CPI and youth health first aid. So there's our info. If you would like to say hey to us at a later time. Something that I love that keeps happening is people email or ask for a chance to talk after a presentation. So just know that we welcome that. If you have any other things you'd like to discuss or a specific situation that we can just kind of listen to or you know what kind of support to take advantage of. So thanks for being here today. So here are our Zoom meeting agreements for the day. I'm sure you've seen these in all the sessions. Engagement really is our top priority, but we know that looks different for everybody. We would just ask that if your camera's on or off, that you do stay engaged with us. Sometimes the camera off allows you to be more engaged depending on what's happening in your world. If you're able to leave it on, we love to see your face. We want to honor all perspectives in the room. We know that self-care is something that some of you may not have thought much about before, but some of you may be experts in. So we want to honor that everybody comes from a different perspective and assume good intentions of one another. There are a lot of reaction buttons and participation functions you can use today. So in the last session I had, this is the point where I had everybody use the reaction buttons to put like a what do you call those things? Noisemaker, party thing, whatever, in the chat to let us, or in your
it's a celebration. Raise the praise.
Yes, let's celebrate. So if you're able to access your reaction buttons, give us a smile or a thumbs up or a celebration horn so that we can see that you know how to participate with us today. All right, I'm seeing a few thumbs ups and green check marks, and some people are even smiling at us, Des. That makes me happy. And some people, your smiles are making me really happy. I get really hungry for a smile, I guess. All right, thanks everyone. We really appreciate that. So we'd like you to check in with us. Nothing like going deep right at the beginning. We want you to tell us your name and your role and why you are worth knowing. So I will speak mine out. Been thinking about what I'd say to this. So Christina, staff developer, I am a trustworthy friend. So that is what I would type in the chat if I wasn't talking. I can't do that at the same time. But we would welcome you to please participate by putting that in the chat for us. What's your name and your role, and why are you worth knowing? All those things are making me smile so much. That's fantastic.
I love all the self-love happening in our chat right now.
Yep, that's good stuff. And all the things I'm seeing about kids. So you're even, we're even letting you not focus on students right now, and still you are. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you being that transparent with us and putting these thoughts in the chat, and keep on doing that as we go forward. Here are outcomes for you today. We want you to be able to identify ways to honor some losses experienced during COVID education, COVID in general, and to access some resilience resources to help you through. We want you to be able to articulate the importance of self-care and to select one daily self-care strategy that you could start using right away. We want this to be practical for you today, so we think you're going to enjoy it. First off, we want to honor our losses. So I'm asking Dez's help to put the link to this article in the chat. There's an article called It's Okay to Grieve by Stephanie O'Neill. It was in March of last year, and so wise as to all the losses we've experienced. So we really want you to just take probably 2 minutes to read an article and to be able to kick back and sit back and turn your camera off for a minute. It's a huge link. It's in the, okay, so now the chat, the link is in the chat, super long. If you can click the link and it opens up for you, can you give us a thumbs up or a yes so we can see that you've got it? Great. So what we're supposed to be doing right now, because I get it, you're going from room to room, right? And you're saying, what are we supposed to be doing right now? So I'm going to actually stop talking and set a timer for 2.5 minutes. Being silent for that long is a pretty big deal. And as you're reading it, I'd like you to think about these 2 questions. What phrases or ideas stood out to you, and what specific situations contribute to grief for educators? Because Stephanie didn't write this about educators in particular, but that's the spot you're in as support personnel, as teachers, as special area personnel, as office personnel, whoever you are with us today, you are an educator. So what specific to you did it cause you to think of? Once we start to see a lot of ideas popping in the chat, we'll know you're finishing up that article. Thank you so much, everybody. What I'm reading in the chat is plainly therapeutic for me. I'm going to read them all really carefully later. So what I thought was really powerful that I read was this quote: "To weather these uncertain times, it's important to acknowledge and grieve lost routine, social connections, family structures, and our sense of security, and then create new ways to move forward." I love that idea of creating new ways to move on. The article talked about honoring your grief, and the 4 ways to do that were to bear witness and communicate, write, create, and express, meditate, and be open to joy. What an amazing list of things to do every day. Even if you need to post that somewhere, you can definitely access this later as well. I think it's just a really great list of just remember this every single day. So there are definitely benefits to processing grief. And some of you pointed this out in the chat already, that we have to get through the grief to move forward. So it's okay to feel grief over what we're losing. And when we do that, it allows us to let grief do its job, so that we can move on. Grief is not something we can skip over. We cannot skip over the experience of feeling loss and recognizing that we feel loss. Processing it is what's most important, and that happens at a different pace and different ways for everybody, but it's of utmost importance to be able to move forward. And another thought about the benefits of processing grief is that grieving is so important because it allows us to free up energy that's bound to the lost person, object, or experience, so that we might reinvest that energy elsewhere. Until we have experienced that grief, we're likely to find reinvesting difficult, as a part of us remains tied to the past. I love the idea of energy for reinvestment elsewhere. We all have things we need to put energy toward right now. And if we feel stuck, this might be why. So we want to give time to honor these griefs today. And the way we're going to do that is allow you to do a journaling activity that you've probably already started, to be honest, right there where you are, whether it's just jotting something down or highlighting what you're reading. So what we'd like you to do is think about what losses you are grieving. And this could take the form of just a short list that you jot down. And that list could go on and on. There are certainly a lot of things we're grieving the loss of right now. But Sherry Cormay, a PhD who specializes in grief and mentoring, says most of us have never been through anything like this pandemic. But we've been through other challenging transitions, and it can help us to write about how we got through those things, how you got through a divorce or losing your job or another challenging transition. How did you heal and recover from that? So we really just hope this is a mini journaling activity, and we want to make sure you realize that our goal is not to plunge you into something that's very painful right now, or to have you go too far into something that was life-altering for you. What we want you to do is be able to practice the activity of journaling in an emotionally safe situation today. This is a quick write. It's to get you warm into this type of strategy so that you can use that more later. If you feel your journaling will take you to a really sensitive spot, we want to make sure you've thought about what you'll do next with this journaling and who you'll talk through it with. Is there someone you frequently talk to that you could share what you journaled with, that you could ask them to do the same activity so you could compare what they said? It could be so powerful to connect you to others to get support through your grief. So we're going to allow this 3-minute timer for you to journal. We'll stop sooner if you need us to. Just drop in the chat, I'm finished, or I need more time. If you feel that you should drop that in the chat, we'll let you know at 3 minutes. We want to kind of take your pulse and see if you need more time or not. So go right ahead. Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Most of you have popped up with that you're finished at this point. I don't know about you, but I probably could have listed more things that I have lost. Some of them I couldn't find words for, so that was tricky. And that's part of the experience, I think. So thank you for doing that. I'm betting you stumbled into some things that Des is going to talk about later for self-care. But one thing we need to realize is this pandemic is not over. And that's what's making it hard for so many of us, right? Changes abound in and out of school, in and out of sports, lots of different things up in the air. And because it's going on longer than any of us may have expected, and we're not really sure what happens day to day, these things are continuous. These losses and disappointments are continuous. So what we need is resilience. So we're going to just take a quick tour into resilience. I'm not going to take too long on it because Des's stuff is really powerful. But what is resilience and how can it help us through something that's so ongoing for us? So I thought of diamonds. So diamonds are something most of us love. You know, I don't have a lot of them and I don't need a lot of beautiful things, but I like to look at them, that's for sure. And I stumbled upon this YouTube video about diamonds and it was really neat. I actually put the link in the notes area for you to look at later if you'd like, but I did a word cloud of the words that stood out to me from the video about the processing of a diamond in its natural form and what actually happens over the course of 20 or so years for a diamond to be harvested. These words are all the ones that stood out to me: pressure, process, hot, depth, rare, exploring. These are probably some of the things you're feeling right now. And resilience just being that ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. So we want to build up our resilience as we go through this together. So we have 2 large resources for you to check out later on. One of them is from the American Institute for Research, and it has some key resilience factors for us, plus also a self-assessment. It's an 18 or 19-page document that is amazing. Print it out and try to work on it over the next month of your life. I promise you, you will love it. I'm going to show you more about it. And then number 2 is the Resilient Educator Toolkit. It's all an online tool, and I'm going to show you some of the things from that as well. So these key resilience factors from the American Institute for Research are listed here: sense of control, sense of meaning and purpose, spirituality, self-awareness and emotional regulation skills, social support, healthy coping style, humor and optimism. So some of you mentioned that you like to make others laugh. You've got something there. Cognitive flexibility, positive thinking, and adaptability to change. So on a Post-it as we go forward, just jot down, are there 2 of those that you think you do a pretty decent job of or are part of your life already? Are there a couple of those that you really would like to strengthen to make yourself a more resilient person? Maybe a part of you you've been ignoring or something you haven't been engaging in as much as you did before. So again, this is a list of some key resilience factors and just thinking through a couple of those that are already present for you and a couple of those that you would like to strengthen as we move forward here. So I can tell you that for me, 2 things I would like to make a more a part of the fabric of who I am is adaptability to change and healthy coping style. And so that gives me a place to look if I'm trying to strengthen those skills or those traits. There is so much on the internet these days, but also a lot of books out there that some of you may have or can get connected with about things like change and coping styles and how to cope with difficulties. And just coming into contact with that material can help you grow that resilience factor. So this is where I said, I promise you'll love this one tool. I linked up here for you the self-assessment and planning tool from the Educator Resilience and Trauma-Informed Self-Care section of the American Institute for Research. So I think Des probably can drop that for you in the chat, the link to it, but I wouldn't spend too much time opening it up right now. Maybe just have it open on a tab and explore it later, because it will suck you in. It has about a 6-page self-assessment of self-care strategies that you do for yourself, and you can self-assess in these different areas of your life how well you care for yourself. And I found it really encouraging, because some of the things they list are ideas you never would have thought of. So you put never or not yet for that, or I can't remember exactly what the categories are, but then you think, oh, I'm going to do that. One of them I latched onto was mapping my day and documenting through tallies or check marks or something times I felt more stress in the day, so I could think about how to cope better at those times, or kind of head that off at the pass. So whether it's I'm not getting lunch, or I need more water, or I haven't slept well, you could learn that through mapping out the times of your day that are more stressful. So that's just one example of a tool I learned of from this self-assessment. But here's a little bit, some snapshots of what the self-assessment looks like. And again, it's in 6 different areas, and Des will bring up those areas later when we talk about self-care planning. So that's a tool that you could utilize that will really encourage you, I think. That other tool, the Resilient Educator Toolkit, it's a really neat website that has all of these topics here for you to find a quick and easy resource on to help you think through that or help others. So the ones we're going to focus on today are self-care and creating a plan. And just for example, in the website, here's what it looks like. If you clicked on self-care, there is a resource for teachers, families, and students. And the resources that are there are really action-based resources, so I really like those. And then the one for creating a plan, also same sections, teachers, families, and students. So it's a nice resource that is organized well, and you can click on stuff. So this is a website, the Resilient Educator, that you might be able to just put a star on or create a bookmark for on your computer, or pull it up on your cell phone and save it to the home screen of your phone so you can look at it at a later time. We wish we had you for a full day today and you could click on them and explore your little heart out right now, but we wanted to make sure you have some resources for later, when you can think on the things that are really tough for you right now. So what we'd like to do at this point, before we go into specific strategies, is to share through a Jamboard. I don't know if you've ever used a Jamboard before, but it's a lot of fun. Des will put the link in the chat. And in the Jamboard, which you could click on through the slide or go through the link she posts, it basically is a spot. It's kind of like a whiteboard for everybody to use. So there are 2 pages in it. One page says, a new thought I have about resilience is, and the next page says, a resilient strategy that will affect the most positive change for me is. And there are no right or wrong answers. Great ideas popping up here. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and look at it again later in the session if we have time. I want to be able to turn this over to Des, who has the real goodies for you. She definitely does. So go ahead, Des, whenever you're ready, and I'll take over the chat.
Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about the oxygen mask theory. Have you ever flown on a commercial airplane? You know that speech they give you, the flight attendant gives about the oxygen mask? They tell you that in the event of an emergency, that an oxygen mask will fall from overhead, and to place your oxygen mask immediately, and that if you are traveling with a child or someone requiring assistance, to place your oxygen mask first before helping others. Well, a couple of years ago, I flew to Las Vegas with a friend of mine who has special needs and needed some assistance. While we were listening to this announcement, she cracked a joke about making sure I put her mask on first, and the flight attendant must have heard because she elaborated on her speech. She announced that in the event of the oxygen masks dropping, that the oxygen in the cabin would drop so rapidly that if you did not put your mask on first, you would likely pass out. If you helped somebody else first, you could be endangering your own safety, maybe even your life. She said that in order to help others, you must first help yourself. I'm going to say that last part again. In order to help others, you must first help yourself. And from now on, when you think about self-care, I want you to think about the oxygen mask on the airplane. Basically, what I'm saying is that you can't function very well if you aren't very well. We've all heard the analogy about being a cup. You can't pour from an empty cup. And that's so true. There's a balance that we need between what we do for ourselves and what we do for others. The simple fact of the matter is, friends, we cannot help other people if we're not taking care of ourselves. This applies to our husbands, our wives, our children, our students, our friends, our family members. We can't help others if we're not well. So what is self-care? Self-care can be categorized into 5 different categories. It can actually be categorized into way more than that. Today, we're going to talk about 5 categories. Self-care is the action of caring for yourself. You have your physical self-care. These are things like getting enough sleep or extra sleep if you need it, stretching, walking, making sure to exercise, eating healthy food, yoga, rest. Your emotional self-care. This is where your taking care of your feelings happens. This is your stress management, having forgiveness or compassion, kindness, and mindfulness. I'm seeing some familiar faces and names in here from the mindfulness workshop a little earlier. Your mindfulness happens in your emotional self-care. Your social self-care is your support systems, paying attention to positive social media, communication, spending time with loved ones, asking for help if you need it. It's also having healthy boundaries and enforcing them, and the ability to say no. Your spiritual self-care can be time alone, meditation, attending church, doing devotions, yoga, nature, journaling, spending time in a sacred space. And then your personal self-care, the things that fill you on a personal level, like your hobbies, finding your personal identity, your time management, and your self-love. And judging from what I saw in the chat earlier, I don't know that we really need a whole lot of help with the self-love area. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but you guys really rocked the self-love area earlier. So let's talk real quick about social bonds. This is something during the COVID experience that we might be lacking in. Well, over the past 2 decades, a wide range of studies have identified a strong causal association between social relationships, health, and longevity. Until now, there were major gaps in the understanding of the mechanisms, timing, and duration of these associations. In fact, until just recently, most of these studies were done in older youth, like teenagers, and the elderly. Finding something that was applicable to the in-between adults was a little challenging. However, we have found that aging adults live longer if they have a robust social connection. Perceived social isolation increases stress hormones that can lead to premature death and also cause a hardening of the arteries, as well as inflammation and a diminished executive function. Strong social bonds and networks can be more beneficial to your health and well-being than a good diet and exercise. But most importantly, your social bond quality is more important than the quantity. Having a good, solid social network that is small is more important than having a mediocre social network that's large. So what I'm trying to say here is make the call. Call your friend. Schedule the coffee date. Take a girls' trip or go golfing. Take a hike with some friends. Go fishing or dancing. Your social bonds are an important and intricate part of your health, your self-care, and your health. And just like we were talking about earlier with honoring your grief, we want to make sure that we're feeling our feelings. Think about how you are currently feeling, how you're really feeling. Those feelings are important. Your feelings, good, bad, or indifferent, are important. A couple of you had posted in the chat, your takeaway from that article was not being able to heal from something that you're not aware of. Your emotions, even your negative thoughts and emotions, are part of your human experience. You cannot just ignore them. You have to honor them. Feel those feelings and move on from them with your self-care and healing activities. These emotions are part of your self-care. Finding stress management, having forgiveness and compassion, offering kindness, gratitude, journaling, and having mindfulness. It's all about reframing, finding the joy and gratitude in every situation, even when it's not the best. So, what are our benefits to self-care? Tons of benefits. It improves your physical health. We're, again, reducing our stress and anxiety. Nobody wants to live a stress-filled life. Nobody wants to walk around anxious all of the time. Self-care can help improve those, as well as boost your self-esteem. We're protecting our mental health and building better relationships. I want to take a moment for you to share. Share in the chat. Why is self-care important to you? Oh, I love that first one. Thank you, Tracy. She says it makes her a better mother. Feel healthy. Wow, these are coming in really fast because I don't feel like myself without it. I deserve it. Better mom, reduce stress. These are amazing. Thank you all so much for sharing. I am going to take time later and read these all in depth. They're coming in really fast. I'm trying to focus in on them as they're coming in to still feel human. I love that one. These are really great. Thank you all so much for sharing. So let's talk about how to self-care and work on selecting a strategy. There is self-care available to everyone. You can see some items on this list. Maybe you look at them and you want to try some of them, but this is not an exhaustive list. There are hundreds of ways for you to practice self-care. And the way people practice self-care is totally different. You know, when my daughter is feeling down, she's 11, and she's feeling down and she needs a pick-me-up. One of her favorite forms of self-care is to watch funny animal videos. I have a 3-year-old foster daughter too, though, and she doesn't get funny animal videos. She likes to dance. And I know that when I'm feeling down, one of the best ways to boost my mood is to listen to music. And it depends on my mood. Sometimes I want a good worship song. Sometimes I want some scream in your ear rock. It depends on my mood. So this is not an exhaustive list. And just because there's something on this list that you want to do doesn't mean that it's something that everybody else wants to do. If I'm being totally honest, as your literacy specialist right now, reading a book is not my go-to for self-care. Reading is something that I do for work and isn't really something I've ever really enjoyed doing in my spare time for pleasure. However, there are a lot of people who do enjoy that. I enjoy gratitude. There are some people who really struggle with gratitude. I don't particularly like to take naps. They stress me out because I feel like I have a million things that I have to do. So if I'm taking a nap, it's because my body is telling me in that moment to stop and close my eyes. My husband naps every Saturday and every Sunday. It's part of his self-care, and we go with it. Self-care is for everyone, but not everyone's self-care is the same. Let's talk about some things that you could do today. You could go for a walk. Studies show that 20 minutes of exercise releases stress-inducing endorphins. It reminds me of that movie, Legally Blonde, where the workout instructor is on trial for killing her husband, and Elle Woods says, but she works out. And when you work out, it releases endorphins, and endorphins make you happy. And happy people don't just kill their husbands. And I think about that when I exercise. Happy people don't just kill their husbands. Vitamin D and fresh air are great too. So you can take a bath or a shower. Personally, I'm a big fan of essential oil infused baths to relax. However, the act of bathing has been shown to reduce stress and anxiety. There's something refreshing about washing it away. You could make a list. Make a list of the things that you need to do. This is one of my favorite ways to get organized and declutter my mind. It's self-care. My favorite type of list is an ABC list. So your A's are things that need to be completed immediately. This might be making dinner. Your B list need to be completed soon, but could wait until tomorrow. Maybe the laundry. And your C list is your ongoing projects. So an example could be writing a book. It's something that you need to do. It's something that you need to work on every day, but it's not necessarily something that you're going to complete today. And keeping an A, B, and C list. And that way you know how to prioritize your list a little better. Once you've completed a list, made a list, you can try completing something that's on your A list. You could breathe. I know that sounds funny, but really breathe. Try it now. Close your eyes. Take a big, deep breath in and then release it. Do that again. Really focus on your breath. Feel your air fill your lungs. Feel that oxygen enter your blood. Really enjoy it. Deep breathing increases the supply of oxygen to your brain, and it stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes a state of calmness, decreasing your body's fight or flight response. These breathing techniques can help you feel connected to your body and bring awareness away from your worries in your head and quiet your mind. Deep breathing also reduces your stress hormone cortisol. If you take rapid, shallow breaths, think old style Lamaze classes, they can actually, that type of breathing can actually create a fight or flight response. It can make your body feel like it's in danger, triggering a fight or flight response in your brain. Make sure that your breath is deep and steady. You can rest or meditate. Now, I shared earlier, I'm not much of a napper, but I do value my quiet time. You could do a 5 to 10 minute meditation, or honestly, you could sit in the quiet for just 1 or 2 minutes. I personally love to spend quiet time outside where I can witness beauty and wonder and listen to nature. During the summer, one of my favorite things to do to start my day is take my coffee out onto the deck. And I can witness the sun rising. I can hear all of the birds and wildlife kind of starting. It kind of makes me sound like I live, on this wilderness kind of, and I don't. I have lots of neighbors, but I'm always the first one up. And it is just such a peaceful way to start my day. You can be kind to yourself. There is an activity that I do when I'm feeling really down on myself where I take a picture of myself, or I just write my name in the middle of a piece of paper. And then all around my paper, I list words, positive adjectives about myself, as many as I can. And you know what? I normally get about 5, maybe 10 words in before I start to run out of words. And then I hit Google. And I will Google positive adjectives about people, and I'll find the ones that I feel are applicable to me. And I fill my cup by being nice to myself. You could go outside. As soon as this session is over, you could go outside and just breathe in the fresh air. I don't know about where you guys are, but it's really sunny here. Let that sunshine hit your face. I know it's pretty cold, but if you're comfortable, or maybe when it warms up, you can take your shoes off and allow yourself to be grounded standing on the earth. There are studies that show that there are enzymes in the dirt that help fight depression and anxiety. You can phone a friend. When your workday is over, pick up the phone, call a friend. Call a friend you talked to yesterday. Call a friend you haven't spoken to in a month. Call your sister or your brother or your mother. Because of COVID, participating in social interactions can be more difficult for some people than ever before. But don't give up hope on your social interactions. I've seen plenty of people doing interactive or virtual game nights with their friends playing Uno via Zoom. While having in-person social interactions are ideal, resilience gives us the power to roll with the uncertainty of the moment. And with today's technology, there's no reason why you can't telephone or FaceTime or even Zoom, Google Hangouts, lots of ways you can see a smiling face, somebody you love. You can also spend some time in gratitude. This is something I try to do every day. When I started my gratitude practice, I started by writing 3 things that I was thankful for every day. And I would try not to duplicate from one day to the next. I think that the year I started was the year we had all of that rain. And I found myself so very often saying that I was thankful for the sunshine. Anytime the sun came out, I was thankful for the sunshine. And I noticed the duplication. So I would always try to add why I was thankful for the sunshine after it. I'm thankful for the sunshine because it feels warm on my face. I'm thankful for the sunshine because we've had it for 3 days and it's drying out my yard and my dogs aren't as muddy. Being very specific in your gratitude is always helpful. As time grows, so should your gratitude practice. You can try expressing 5 things that you're thankful for. Can you be more specific in your gratitude practice? Or can you come up with more things? But don't try to force it. Allow your attitude of gratitude to grow in a natural way. Let's do a quick activity. This is not something that you need to share in the chat. This is something that is just for you. On a Post-it note or a piece of paper, or even in your mind, I want you to think about or write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Now, here's where it gets fun. I want you to add detail to your gratitude until you can feel your smile grow. We're going to give you just a few minutes, I think 3 minutes, to work on writing down your gratitude. I'm peeking at some of your video. You guys have your videos on right now, and I can see you're actually smiling while you're doing this. I love it. All right, I see some smiles, and I can see in the chat that people are starting to finish. They're dropping smiley faces. I'm guessing somebody's on their phone because I actually see an emoji, which I can't do from my computer. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jealous. Emojis bring me joy. So thank you for the happy hands emoji. So what does all of that mean though? Let's talk about creating a self-care plan, because we can't take care of others unless we take care of ourselves, right? So there are some obstacles that you might come face to face with while you are creating a self-care plan. The first is not seeing immediate results. So when a caterpillar creates its cocoon or its chrysalis and becomes a butterfly, it is not this magical overnight moment where it wraps itself up and then emerges as a beautiful butterfly. It is actually a really gross process where the caterpillar the caterpillar kind of liquefies in its cocoon and then regrows as a butterfly. So when you are not seeing immediate results, I want you to imagine that you are a soon-to-be butterfly. Maybe you're still a caterpillar. Maybe you're in your chrysalis. Maybe you're liquefied. Maybe you're almost a butterfly. But you're not going to see immediate results. You're not going to blink your eyes and suddenly feel all of the stress relief because you did self-care for a day. Sometimes an obstacle is not knowing what to do. And to that, I'm going to use Nike's slogan, and I'm going to say, just do it. Just choose one thing on the list, anything you want, and try it. If it's not for you, that's fine. I'm not asking you to carve anything in stone. It's not a marriage, okay? If you don't like it, do something else. Just start somewhere. And also your social media and phone distractions. In our house, we have protected time where we are not allowed to have our phones. And that is a part of our self-care. Sometimes our phones are self-care. Like sometimes I play word games on my phone as part of my self-care. But if I am sitting with my husband and watching TV, we have a very strict no phone policy. So allowing there to be a protected phone-free time, social media-free time is always beneficial when you're creating a self-care plan. So how do we find time? There are lots of different ways for you to work on finding time. We spoke a little bit about, Christina shared about logging your day, writing down what you do during the day and finding out when you feel stressed. That's one option to find time in your day. If you write down everything you do, then you see the times where you have time available to practice self-care. Maybe you wake up 5 minutes earlier, or maybe you go to bed a little bit later. Sometimes when we're creating our plan, we have to create a schedule. I know for some people that seems really rigid, but when we create a schedule, we develop a routine. And I think studies show that 21 days of a habit, 21 days of an action creates a habit. So if you do something, if you create a schedule and you follow that schedule and create that routine for 21 days, then you don't really need the schedule anymore. Creating protected time. I know that I was no longer feeling spiritually fed for a while, and part of it was because I wasn't attending church. I was doing ministry and I was getting distracted because the church was on the TV and I wasn't attending. But what we've done is we've actually created that as protected time. So during that time, it is time for church, and short of an actual emergency, that's what happens during that time. Another way is finding pockets of time. I know that a lot of moms will say, sometimes I lock myself in the bathroom for 3 minutes of quiet. Hey, if that's what you've got to do, you work in your pockets of time. Maybe you've got dinner in the oven and you've got 15 minutes until the timer goes off. Maybe your daughter's in the shower and you can sneak outside and enjoy some time in nature. Finding those pockets of time. Maybe you decide that taking a walk during your lunch break is more valuable to you than sitting down and eating lunch in a break room. Or, I mean, I'm working from home right now, so my lunch actually happens at my dining room table. Sometimes when I really need self-care, I either have a shake for lunch or I eat my lunch at my computer, and I'll go for a walk during my lunch break because that's the pocket of time I have right then. We want to have accountability for our self-care too. And there are some ways that we can do that. One of my favorite ways is writing a pledge. This is a promise that you write to yourself where you declare and pledge that you are going to perform an action, whatever self-care you want, and you sign your name to it. I'm going to say 3 things I am grateful for every day, sign my name. We can also create a checklist. I really can't stress enough how much of a fan I am for checklists. There's something satisfying about completing something and checking it off or scratching it off. My husband laughs at me because I will do something that's not on my list and then write it on my list to scratch it off. You could also get yourself an accountability buddy. Christina thought that this was a typo when she first saw it, but it's not. It's an accountability buddy. So what you do is you find somebody who will lovingly help you stay accountable for reaching your goals or living out your plan. So sometimes when we set a workout goal, we will find somebody who will hold us accountable for meeting that goal. We check in with them. We let them know our progress, and they do the same with us. Remembering your why. Why do you want to do self-care? You guys had some amazing responses when I asked that earlier, because you want to feel like a human, because it makes you a better mom, to reduce your stress. These were all great reasons. Remember that reason when you want to stop. You may not know, but mirrors work as a dry erase board. So you can use a dry erase mirror or a dry erase marker on a mirror. Now, whether or not you want to do this in your house is up for debate. I do it in my house. It's an old yucky mirror that's going to be gotten rid of when we finally renovate our bathroom. I will write messages about my why, about what I want to do, about my goals. Right now, my words for the year are up because there were 2 and I couldn't choose. And they are faith and adventure, and they are both up on my bathroom mirror. However, on my full-length mirror in my bedroom, I write notes to myself as well. And a lot of times they include my why. And a lot of times they're really just a positive affirmation. It's a reminder to love myself. What is your why? And creating a visible plan. So let's talk about our visible plans. Here's one way you can create a visible plan. This would just be a sheet of paper folded into 4 quadrants. I chose the topics mind, body, spirit, and heart. And I'm just going to put some things on my plan. Under my mind, I'm going to begin meditating. It's something that I kind of struggle with. So I'm going to work harder at relaxing my mind through meditation. But I'm also going to play Scrabble on my phone because it builds brain power, makes me think harder. And I'm super competitive and I can play it with my husband and win. Under my body, I'm going to exercise daily. I actually just started a new program today that I'm really excited about. I'm also going to start cutting out my desserts. You know, I really don't like the way my body feels when I eat all of that sugar. And, you know, one of the things that I'm trying to do is just be healthier. I don't have a weight loss goal. I have a self-love goal. And I think that I'm going to meet that faster if I start cutting out my desserts. I'm also going to listen to my body and rest or nap when needed. My family experienced COVID over Christmas and we get really tired still. So I'm going to make sure that I listen to my body and rest when I need it. For my spirit, I'm going to start doing daily devotions. When we took in a foster child, it was something that got away from me because my schedule totally changed. And now I kind of try to do devotions when I remember in pockets of time. I told you earlier about the protected time for church. And also I'm going to start doing yoga. For my heart self-care, I'm going to walk every week with my friend Kayla. Not only does that give me extra exercise, but it also gives me that strong social connection. And I really value my time with her. She loves big like I do. And she is also a strong woman of God and speaks into my life in a strong and powerful way. And I'm going to practice gratitude daily. So here's what a plan could look like. Here's what another plan could look like. You think of a way you feel and then you address it through self-care. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will ask for help. That was one of those social self-care things that we were talking about earlier. When I feel stressed, I will practice mindfulness. So with something like this, you're just going to think of what you want to address through your self-care and then choose a self-care strategy to work with it. This next one is great. It came from that resilience tool that we posted earlier, the big 19-page document. And it gives you the opportunity to honor what you already do. It gives you the opportunity to honor what you already do while building on with something else that you want to try. So maybe you already exercise daily, but you would like to add to that a daily walk, or you would like to add to that a specific diet routine. And you can actually find this template in that tool that we gave you earlier.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, Des, that when you do that tool, you're able to, it is actually divided into these 6 areas already. So you can see, you know, what area seems to be maybe the biggest struggle for you right now and which one seems to be the strongest. So I was able to celebrate the area of relationships. So I was really proud of myself when I went through the assessment to see that I've kept those, relationships close to me and strengthened them during this time.
So at this time, I want to open it up and ask if anybody has any questions or comments that they feel like they need to share right now. You can feel free to unmute yourself or just drop it in the chat.
I wanted to mention, Des, that there were a lot of really good ideas the whole time you were presenting. People were putting down ideas of like things they do for self-care, like hiking, pets.
I saw somebody said, get another dog.
Yeah.
I loved that. I don't need another dog.
Yeah. And then there was, somebody said, puzzles. That was it. I knew it was something that rang with me. Our family, I have a 5-year-old, like I think I said in this one, or if not, an earlier session. One of the few times that child is quiet and engaged for a long period of time is when we do a puzzle together. So we love doing that. Awesome.
It's funny that you say that. My mother-in-law loves puzzles. But we decided we were going to start doing puzzles as a family. And once all of those puzzle pieces were out on the table, it really stressed me out. Yeah. And I could not wait for that puzzle to be done and put away. And when they opened the next puzzle, I excused myself from the family activity. It was just too much for my brain. I was also the kid, I couldn't play with Legos. They confused me, the directions. I wasn't that person. But that's one of the things that it's important for us to know. Just because I don't like puzzles doesn't mean that you're not going to like puzzles. And finding that way to unwind is so beneficial no matter what it is.
Yeah, good idea. Digital puzzle app. And I'll tell you, Des, I get what you're saying, because one time I made the mistake of buying a puzzle that I didn't realize did not have edges. It was a certain shape. It was more like a circular shape. And it stressed me out so much that I decided to embrace non-closure. And my child and I, made a decision together that we were going to put that one away. So we put it away. We will save that for another year. So
I told my mother-in-law I was going to buy her one of those ones that's all white on both sides, so you don't even know. She said, please don't.
For sure. That would not be good. So we want to move you to this sharing piece, Des. We have about only 3 minutes left or so. So we want to get you sharing and give you the code for our session. So if you wouldn't mind, it's some of you are already doing that. Please share in the chat one self-care strategy you want to begin implementing. So this is something new you're going to try.
So somebody asked in the chat while you guys are writing down your strategies, somebody asked in the chat how you're dealing with a lack of physical contact. So I'm going to tell you that prior to COVID, I was not a hugger. My love language is not touch. Please don't touch me. I don't go for massages or any of that kind of stuff. So I didn't really struggle with it until about 4 or 5 months in, and then I just craved it. So one of the things that we do in our house is we obviously can hug each other. My husband gets very frustrated on hard days when I say, no, I really just need you to hug me longer. But my mom gives a very specific hug, and she will talk on the phone with my 11-year-old and she'll say, tell your mom to give you a Wawa hug. That's what she calls her. And my daughter will come up to me and she says, I need a Wawa hug. And it's a very specific way. I don't hug her the same way that I would hug myself, or I would hug her myself. And it's really helped her in feeling like she's getting physical contact from somebody other than me. So sometimes it's embracing people in a different way to make up for the loss of physical contact. That's just one of the ways I've dealt with it. We've dealt with it here.
Awesome job, everybody. One thing I've been trying is I use Insight Timer, which is a free app for meditation and mindfulness. And there are titles anywhere from Christian meditation to Buddhist meditation to completely non-spiritual meditation to guided, unguided, music only, no music, etc. There's a lot of great options on there. And you can even pick the amount of time you're willing to spend. So you can pick 5 minutes or less. You can pick 2 minutes. I have decided I'm going to do that every single day. So pockets of time, Des talked about, I'm doing it when I'm walking the dog. We have a new puppy. I always have him out at some point before 10 a.m. for at least a 5 to 10 minute walk. So that's when I'm doing mindfulness every day. So if you have to schedule it when you're already doing something that makes it happen, that's a great idea. And lots of good ideas are there in the chat. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your transparency and willingness to spend time with us. You may have learned already that you could just go in one time at the end of the day and put all your codes in for your attendance. But the code for this session is 4901. 4901 if you want to jot that down. The link is right there in this slide, but it's linked as well in your daily agenda, the one with all the colors on it, purple, pinks, and all that. The attendance link is on there as well. And when you do the evaluation for us, we'll try to drop that link right in the chat for you. It's anonymous. It doesn't tell us who said what, but you will need to know the name of our session, adult self-care, and our names as well. So I will grab that link and put it in the chat, but we want to do something special at the end that we feel will really encourage you all. So I'm going to let Des start that.
Okay, so earlier I talked about positive adjectives to describe yourself. I want our ending to be a way that we can fill ourselves, but we can also fill others. So I want you to choose one positive word about yourself that starts with the first letter of your name. And I'm going to ask you in just a moment to put it in the chat. Don't do it yet. But as you read the words that come into the chat, I want you to think of each and every one of them as being said to you personally. Every word that every person puts into the chat, every positive word that you read, I want you to read as though they are saying it to you specifically. Okay. So we're going to fill our own cups while we fill others. Are you guys ready? I want you to think of a word that starts with a positive adjective that starts with the first letter of your first name and drop it in the chat. Oh, I love these. Peaceful, vivacious, compassionate, marvelous. This is every single one of you. Happy, trusting, resilient, kind, loyal, awesome, magnanimous, merry, devoted, terrific, lovely, stupendous. All of these words are you. Mindful, supportive, everlasting, sensitive, compassionate, sensational, joyous, a blessing. Wow, you guys are all fantastic. Thank you all so much for sharing. Thank you for being present today. I really hope that you were able to take something from this to fill yourself.
Thank you, everybody.